Tonight we're going to explore some folk songs of the Great Depression. Where did these songs come from? Who sang them and how did we get them? And what were these odd instruments? These rather odd assortment of instruments. Jugs, guitar. We'll get more into each one of these instruments. The mandolin, as we go through tonight. The harmonica. How did these folk songs and instruments become such an important part of American culture? Song catchers. What's a song catcher? Song catchers are people that are obsessed with songs. They travel throughout the country, they collect songs, they look for songs, they find songs, they preserve songs. They travel from sea to shining sea, from California to the New York Island, capturing the experiences of the common folk. It's in the context of the Great Depression tonight that we're focusing. These song catchers, many of these song catchers did their work. Historically, again, during the administration of FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, he created a program to try to do something. The program was basically intended to accomplish two things: create jobs and restore faith in America. And one way to do that was to show America its greatness through its culture, a culture of resilience and strength. One of FDR's great contributions was this WPA project. Some of you may know about this, the Workers' Progress Administration. Now, there were several songs written to Roosevelt. Here's one that Alan Lomax, we'll talk about a little bit later, wrote and found. And it had words that were by the great Harlem Renaissance poet Langston Hughes.
Roosevelt, son, we're waiting for Roosevelt. The rent was due, all the lights was out. I said, hey Papa, what's this all about? He said, I'm waiting for Roosevelt, Roosevelt. I'm waiting for Roosevelt, son. I'm waiting for Roosevelt. I can't find a job. I can't eat no grub. Everybody knows I'm hungry and got the belly rub. I'm waiting on Roosevelt, Roosevelt, Roosevelt. Well, I'm waiting on Roosevelt. empty and the cupboard is still bare. I said, oh mama, what's the matter here? We're waiting on Roosevelt, 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 son. I'm tired of waiting for Roosevelt.
Hobo John and Andy, Bergen hobos. Can you tell us about these instruments? John, this dobro, that image is the patent schematic that was submitted for the dobro.
That's right.
John, tell us a bit about this.
See that it says 1927? Dopiera Brothers?
Yeah.
Well, they came over from Czechoslovakia, and they had this idea of increasing the volume on this guitar. Actually, has the acoustic guitar over there. This model here is from 1928, and it's one of the finest guitars I ever played. As you can see, it's also known as a resonator guitar, and it has this kind of a tin pan inside, like a popcorn machine. And you play it with a slide. Now, slides can be anything from a knife, take a wine bottle, and you break the tip off, put it on your finger. And what's good about it is, as you just heard us doing the blues, you can get those wailing notes in between. It's not played like a regular guitar where you hold down the notes to get the sound. The strings are a little higher, so I can get those in between notes and slide along with this here metal bottom. So,
How's it tuned, John?
you can tune it any way you like, because there's different tunings. There's a standard tuning, and then there's open string tunings, a D tuning, a G tuning, so you tune it to an open chord, and you'll be able to slide it down and get the voices that you like. So it's quite a good sound. And, I'm playing with a thumb pick. So that's the dobro after the Dopiera Brothers, who came up with the idea. And then National, this one's all wood and metal. Metal on wood. Metal on wood. So there you go.
Andy, what about the harmonic? I heard it's called a mouth organ.
It is. Some people call it that. It was invented by a familiar name, Matthias Hohner. And this is actually Hohner harmonica. He invented it almost 200 years ago in Germany. And Hohner's still the biggest harmonica company, but it's a very portable instrument, fits in your pocket. It's been used in almost every genre of music. Some of the great, it's also called the blues harp, which is a certain way of that blues players played, not using the key that it's actually made for. So our song catcher has 7 harmonicas on display, and there was one for each key. So so they were used differently. So some of the great bluesmen like Sonny Boy Williamson, and later on amplified blues harmonica in Chicago, Little Walter. But it's been played, there's also chromatic harmonica that Stevie Wonder made as one of the virtuosos. So it was used in many different styles of music, very portable and flexible instrument.
Now let's talk about some song catchers. There, gentleman in the white shirt is John Lomax, Sr., Texan. And you can see the back of the car there, 700 pounds of recording equipment. Back of his old Plymouth there, traveling around. You can imagine, you have to be dedicated song catcher. They're probably the most well-known song catchers, John and his son Alan. In the early 30s, they collected cowboy songs and ballads for the Archive of American Folk Song at the Library of Congress. It was a program started as part of the WPA that I mentioned a moment ago. John's primarily interested in cowboy songs, cowboy ballads. And they traveled together. Eventually, Alan joined him to find these songs of the cowboys. But there were earlier song catchers in the 19th, 18th century, such as Cecil Sharp and Francis Child, collected primarily English, Scottish, and Irish folk songs, songs that would become the foundations of bluegrass, a style of music born in the Appalachian Mountains, Kentucky, West Virginia. The thing about the Lomax is that they became obsessed with collecting black music, Negro ballads, they call them. In other words, the blues, which you just heard an example. Lomax writes, Alan Lomax writes, they had the blues, the low-down blues, the dirty, mistreated blues, the broken, hungry blues, the loveless blues, the evil-hearted blues.
Some folks say those worry blues ain't bad. Some folks say those worry blues ain't bad. Well, if that's the blues, then these ain't the worst blues I have. And that pretty woman that'll leave her by your side. It's a pretty woman, don't leave her by your side. I got the worry blues 'cause I've gone around and high. If you see my woman, tell her to hurry home. If you see my woman, tell her to hurry home. 'Cause I ain't had $1 since my baby been gone.
That John's playing a 12-string guitar, and this is Mr. Huddy Ledbetter. There's John. And one of the things that's interesting is that in 1933, one of the places that the Lomaxes would go looking for authentic blues were prisons. And he found at Angola State Prison in Louisiana, he found this inmate, Huddy Ledbetter, who we know as Leadbelly, who really impressed the song catcher. And he was clearly a talented singer, and he's the only blues musician to play a 12-string guitar, which was rather common even generally. Lomax made a request to the prison warden to release Leadbelly from prison. Yet he was in there for murder, a serious charge, but somehow John was able to convince the ward to put him under his wing, take care of him, and he made Leadbelly a household name, particularly in the blues area. Here's one of Leadbelly's railroad songs. Look, first, no, later. Now, tell us about the 12 string, John, please.
This here instrument here is called, well, it's 12 strings. It's nothing new. This is probably older than the standard guitar that has 6 strings, because the guitar always, up until 1700, had double strings. But it had 10 strings, not 12 strings, because the 6th string wasn't added on until somewhere in the 1800s. So it was 10 strings originally. They added on because it was 6 strings later, next evolution, so that's why it became 12. But up until 19th century, guitars had different shapes. But this 12 string came presented to popularity in the United States, probably by way of Mexico, and to Mexican music and the Mexican traditions with those European influenced guitars that were involved there, and hybrid instruments that were being made came up through the Mexican border into the southern states, and that's probably where Mr. Leadbelly probably first was acquainted with the 12-string guitar, and then gained in popularity. It has a very unique sound because the tuning is also tuned like a normal guitar, but it has octave strings. It's a very rich sound, so when you hear it, you'll hear this very unique chorusing effect that this guitar creates in the strumming of it. So this really fills out the room. So try this song.
Another thing about the 12 string is that it's a big instrument.
Yeah.
And Leadbelly had huge hands. He was a very big man. And if you listen, anyone here listen to Leadbelly ever?
Yeah.
If you listen closely, you'll notice that his guitar is tuned actually 2 full steps down. So instead of the E, the thick strings, right, he tuned it down to a C. And that's why when you hear those recordings, the 12 string sounds almost like it's flopping around the strings. But that was just Leadbelly's thing, went with his voice. So he became Leadbelly, and Lomax really, really got him out there. We're going to hear one of Leadbelly's railroad songs. He wrote all kinds of songs, and this is one that became a classic.
I got goats, I got pigs, I got horses, I got chickens, I got livestock, I got livestock. Well, the rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. The rock out of line, it's the road to ride. The rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. If you want to ride it, gotta ride it like a body. Get your ticket at the station at the rock out of line. I may be right, I may be wrong. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone. Well, the rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. The rock out of line, it's the road to ride. The rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. If you want to ride it, gotta ride it like a body. Get your ticket at the station at the rock out of line. Well, Jesus died to save our sins. Glory to God, He's gonna meet us again. Well, the rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. The rock out of line, it's a road to ride. The rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. If you want to ride it, gotta ride it like you find it. Get your ticket at the station at the rock out of line. A, B, C, double X, Y, Z. Captain the cover, but you won't see me. For the rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. The rock out of line, it's a road to ride. The rock out of line, it's a mighty good road. If you want to ride it, gotta ride it like a mighty good road. The rockin' line, it's a road to ride. The rockin' line, it's a mighty good road. If you wanna ride it, gotta ride it like you find it. Get your ticket at the station on the rock.